Hey, Leo Dreger here. I want to talk to you about FileViewer. There's going to be a couple of different versions which you can use this program. You might as well just go to the internet and grab the latest and greatest. I'm currently working off of 8.5. So let's go ahead and install the program. You're going to need to sign your life away with the agreement. But it may be interesting to read this. If you use and evaluate this program fully functional for 30 days. Okay, great. At the end of the evaluation program, the program will stop running. If you think the program is useful and you'd like to use the program regularly, then basically only $20 is required. And you may freely distribute this program for evaluation without being resold. Okay, great. So in that case, that was kind of helpful in terms of why I would want to use this, or what are my distribution rights and things like that as an end user. We're going to go ahead and accept that, sign our lives away. Setup, we'll install FileViewer 8.5. Okay, great. The location which it gets installed, always helpful to know. You're now ready to install it. Okay, great. So go ahead, let it do its thing. Very quick install. For 90% of the programs that I will ever install, you can see the pattern of I'm really just clicking next. Very rarely do I need to go through a complex install, but I'm only really showing you that just to take this, from the beginning more so than anything else. So I've added a file to my my desktop here, FileViewer. Okay, so we're going to open this up. It says, thank you for looking at it, the date that's installed, the date that it expires, the number of users, and okay, great. I think we just want to hit close there. Okay, I had forgotten because it's been, a little bit since I've used this program. But yeah, just go ahead and get closed there if this is the first time that you're using it, because that's really only for the licensing component. And then once we get that out of the way, then we can get to the actual good stuff. Okay. Now, at first, this seems like a pretty complex problem, and I know for all intents and purposes it is. But let's go ahead and kind of look at the overview, just as if I'm going to pretend that this is the first time I've ever seen this. So if you were to install this the first time you've ever seen it, welcome to the FileViewer. This is a disk utility program that helps you find and display files of common file formats for Microsoft Windows, meaning not Linux or Unix or anything else like that. If you're looking for a file and you do not know the name of that file, or you do not know if it's a document or a picture or a spreadsheet, the FileViewer can actually help you find that. You can also print many of the displayed files and send nearly all files over the internet using Windows messaging applications. So it's got a built-in messaging component. The FileViewer contains Microsoft Media Player component, so you can play the files, any video or music you need to, and also playlists and things like that. FileViewer provides a very effective way to organize files on a disk, CD-ROM, or across the local area network. Okay, great. Using an internal database, you can easily add files individually and batch or catalog your entire disk. So as you can see, this is going to be a pretty powerful program. Descriptions and components and plenty of the space large enough of the text can be entered for any file. You can also define your own groups for organizational purposes. Files can be rated by a priority, and up to 3 search words or phrases can be included per file, basically for indexing. You can also integrate with things like FTP or file and folder exporting, things like that. So it really comes down to these types of file formats. And as you can see, there's a lot of them, right? So I'm not going to read all of these to you. You guys can read them on your own. But just to highlight some of the more common or more popular ones, pictures, actually a variety of pictures, bitmaps. If you got specific codec formats, interestingly enough, it does some of the more specific vendor-oriented file extensions. Raw data, okay. XPic map, Photoshop, Macintosh, Windows, clipboard components. Let's see. any of the common audio video stuff like AVIs, MPEGs, movies, and things like that. Database files, and these are going to be low-level databases like, comma separated value, spreadsheets, text files, and things like that. Not anything crazy like, MySQL or anything like that. And zip files. Okay. So you got the overview of it, and it can basically display all of those. Okay. Next over here on the left, you've got basically the system. So you can kind of have like a explorer way of looking at this information. You also can catalog things based off of type. Okay. So I generally just leave it over at system. Okay. Next, file. You can open a file with another program. You can find files by type. Okay, so let's start the forensics investigative process. Let's go ahead and let's say we want, I don't know, let's just be creative and do all JPEG and compressed files, and then okay, and then it'll go through. And actually, we should have set the drive to that. So let's try that one. Okay. Find files by type is what it was. Okay, so that was file, find files by type, and then JPEG, lead compression, and start at the beginning of the disk. Or, okay, this is what I was looking for. Grab the specific directory. So you can do the whole thing if you want. It may be a little timely. I just happen to know that there's some files, some pictures located in the WinSXS directory down here, and that will kind of narrow down and speed up the process. So we're just going to search in there. So look for JPEG and lead compressed files. Okay, great. And then we'll just go ahead and let that run. Okay, and went past it a little too far. Scroll back up here, and you can see it kicked off the search. I got to go down a little bit more here. Here we go. There we go. And you can see it pulls all of those things right in those subdirectory. Okay. So you can filter things by pictures. You can filter it for videos. You can do music. You can do sound files. You can, if you look right down here in the bottom left, you can do text and documents. You can database. Okay, so these are going to be all of the file extensions, for lack of a better word, that you'd want to look for. So if I was looking for all MP3s, I would choose MP3. But in this case, we're going to be looking for, all picture files. Okay. So now when we click in here, if we have a directory with picture files in them, it'll filter just those files out. So we have to actually hit a directory with some pictures in them. You got to hit the right directory here. But it, in theory, what I'm looking for is all of the directories with just a particular type of file. Here we go. Right. So that happened to be an MSN file. Actually, we can go down and get some of the other ones. Let's see. All right, so it'll help just grab just those pieces. These are basically some temp files. But as you can see, there's a lot. Okay. So it will allow you to basically filter and look at those in a much, much better way. But basically, here's your FileViewer piece here. This just happens to be internet files. But if I want, like I said, if I wanted to search for just a particular file type, I could. So let's try that. There we go. So in this case, I searched the directory specifically, and it gave me just that specific JPEG file type. And if I go to the properties, it should be, here it is. Here's the JPEG. So that's more or less what I was looking for. It wasn't the whole, web page and all of the files in it was that specific type. And basically, gets treated just like a file on your hard drive. Okay, so if you right-click that file, you certainly can do it. So you can use a program like this to basically catalog and index and search through different directories and basically find just what I'm looking for. Because I can go through all of these directory structures up here and just say, hey, just find me the pictures in that directory, and in theory, it should pull them right up. All right. So that would be an incentive to kind of, why would you use a program like this in your investigative response? Well, because you can specifically look for that. Now, the prerequisite to that is you must know exactly what you're looking for when you run a program like this, right? Or, hey, you're just poking around in the dark. All right, so that would be find files by type. You could also find folders by type. Because it's very Windows Explorer oriented, you can rename, you can move, you can delete, you can look at the properties, you can print something, and those are all the basic properties of using this. Now, organize, right? Create albums and playlists. All right. So getting started with the file viewer. There are buttons to the left of the playlist allowing you to add files to the playlist, delete the files on the playlist, and maintain descriptors for each file on the playlist. You can create new playlists by clicking the page with a light button under the playlist on the far left. Descriptions and icons can be added either the playlist. Okay, great. Thank you. Next. And you basically can next through this here. All of this is basically going to be your help files here. All right, so that's not realistically what we want. All right, so we're going to go over here. All right, so we found the photo album, and you basically can highlight here and say create new photo album, view photo albums as thumbnails, print all of them, or save them. Okay, so if you want, you can basically just stick out right here. You also can highlight things. Please select a photo album or playlist. That we would actually need one for that. And so let's go back over here. Create photo album or media playlist. Click a new button or enter the information. So we're going to call this, new album. Okay, the icon path, if there is one, the description, we'll put none, and then organize it in the albums, video, music, sounds, documents, text systems, database, internet, favorites, or archives. We're going to do an album and go ahead and save that. And so here you go. Here's that new album. Okay, and this is where you would basically create and store all of your files. So anybody else using this, if they had a specific photo album or something like that, that's where you would have it. Now, not entirely relevant unless you are, of course, like a company doing, a whole bunch of, photo editing or something like that. But maybe internet searches, databases, knowledge bases, and things like that, that would be an incentive to, why would you want to search for and use it? Now, while this file viewer was originally, in my opinion, designed for, organizing data and more kind of like an administrative tool, it very much has a forensics application because of the way that you can basically find files and look for, different types of things. So it's kind of relevant in the forensics world as well. I don't know that I would personally set this up as my file sharing application or try to run this as some sort of front end, for a storage area network and things like that. But you nonetheless can certainly organize things for users and then publish that and share it with other users. Okay. Also, you've got, let's say I did have some pictures and I needed to share them with somebody. I could send them via email or receive an email. So it does work with, it basically just calls upon like Outlook or whatever your email application is and things like that. So that's basically the quick overview of FileViewer. Forensics wise, I would use it primarily to kind of catalog and look for things. But again, you would always be doing this, not from your primary original evidence that you need to go to court with, but always a secondary copy to kind of dig through. Professionally speaking, there's been 2 cases where I've actually used this program to catalog, large volumes of information, just to kind of paint the picture a little easier. And you can do that clearly with like the photo viewer or the video viewer. Depending, of course, that's all relative to the type of case that you would be searching. Because let's say you had a hard drive and there was a whole bunch of questionable images. Well, you'd want to basically search the hard drive for those images, put them in a picture viewer, and then be able to quickly go through that album as quickly as possible. All right, so it does have application in the forensics world. Primarily, it realistically is, I guess, an administrative tool of sorts. All right, so that's FileViewer. My name's Leo Drager. Thanks for watching.